Hello, and welcome to Mashmouth, a podcast covering every single episode of the hit 1970s sitcom, MASH. I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Ethan.
And welcome. Ethan, okay, so I wanted to start out the show by asking you, besides MASH, what other media have you been consuming recently?
You know, I haven't really been in the mood to watch a lot of movies or TV shows lately.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a bit strange for me.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
You know, I've been trying to get into like the Oscar stuff. I've been like meaning to watch Power of the Dog, and I really want to see Licorice Pizza, stuff like that. But like Power of the Dog just seems like homework to me. I'm like, I don't want to watch this. I know it's only 2 hours and it's like right there on Netflix, but I'm like, no. And I was gonna watch it yesterday, but Spider-Man 2 was on just MTV. And I found that on the channel, and I just watched that entire movie and was like, man, this is a good movie. And Kristen Dunst is in that movie, isn't she? Isn't she in Power of the Dog?
She is, yeah.
That's my Kristen Dunst quota for the short term being. What have you been up to? What have you been watching?
So I have actually been kind of prepping for the Oscars. I've been trying to watch an Oscars movie, like a nominee every Friday.
Oh, nice.
So last weekend I did watch The Power of the Dog. And
nice,
I was the one who told you to watch it, actually, remember?
No, I will watch it. I'm just like I have to be in the right mood for this movie.
Yeah, because I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't really care for it that much. But
again, you're in the minority for that. People are loving Power of the Dog. It is like such a critically acclaimed thing. Where I'm
I don't know why.
Am I going to enjoy this at all? I do not know.
Maybe I'm just too stupid for it. Who knows, honestly. But then last Friday, like this past Friday, I went to go to the movies and I saw Cyrano, which technically isn't nominated, but it's nominated for like best costume design or something. So technically it counts as an Oscar movie. And I thought that was fantastic. I loved it.
That's with Peter Dinklage, right? That movie looks really cute. I don't know who Cyrano de Bergerac is or what like that original story is, but I looked it up last night after you told me you saw it. I was like, oh, it's a musical? I did not know that film was a musical. They've really hid that from the marketing. It just kind of looked like a period drama romantic story. But I like Peter Dinklage a lot. I think he's a really great actor.
He really is. You know, I think that you would really enjoy that movie, actually. It's better than I thought it was going to be because I knew it was a musical and I thought it was just going to be like really sappy and really sad and kind of just like overplay the sadness, but I don't know. I thought it was really, really good. Really well done.
Okay. I'll put that on the list. I'm going to watch all these Oscar films, but I'm gonna probably do it in a very short amount of time. I'm probably just gonna like marathon a bunch in like the matter of a weekend, and then I'm gonna watch the Oscars and be like really mad. Because the Oscars, we don't have to get into it right now, but the Oscars are like going off the rails already. They have like the weirdest host and they're like not showing things on air, and I'm really mad about it. But that's for a totally separate podcast. That is for the Ethan and Vanessa Talk About the Oscars podcast, which we may or may not do. But anyway, before we get into this episode, I think it'd be weird not to mention that Sally Kellerman, the actress who originated the role of Margaret Houlihan in the Robert Altman MASH movie, passed away recently at the age of 84. And I'm not super familiar with any of her work outside of the MASH movie, but she originated the role, so it'd just be weird not to acknowledge her.
Yeah, it was really sad when you told me because I hadn't even heard about it. Like you said, she passed away at 84. And I didn't know also that she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for her role in MASH as Margaret Houlihan. That was so cool.
MASH, the movie, which we will talk about at some point. I think we're going to do a separate like bonus episode, was such this critically acclaimed film. I think it like ran the table. I think it got like every nomination it could have. And, you know, good for her, and I hope that she had a really long, interesting career. I'm going to look more into it after we're done recording, but rest in peace, and 84 is a pretty good run.
Yeah, definitely. May her memory be a blessing. Sorry, Sally Kellerman. But I guess we should get from this sad topic onto today's episode, which was definitely more light and fun and happy.
This one was super fun. I quite enjoyed this one.
Yeah, me too. So this one was called the Longjohn Flap. So in this episode, there is this cold stint. It's definitely seasons change, winter. And this pair of long johns that Hawkeye got from his dad from home becomes this really hot commodity, and it changes hands like so many times. So through a series of really crazy, funny mishaps, Hawkeye's long johns get passed from one person in the camp to the next, to the next, to the next, and so on and so on. And it's really, really, it's a great episode. It's very fun.
And this one is the first episode written by Alan Alda, the first of many.
Yes. I have so much to say about this later on.
Yes. We're gonna maybe spend a half an hour on Alan Alda writing this episode alone. But yes, this episode is super fun. It's such a simple concept, but it gets so much out of it. Yeah, it's really good. I really enjoyed this one.
It was funny, but in a really, really like subtle way of just like this comedy of errors kind of way almost.
Yeah.
I really liked it because it wasn't like super hitting you with the jokes every second.
It was kind of like Tuttle.
Yeah,
a little bit, how that one was kind of like an escalating house of cards building up and then collapsing kind of thing. It doesn't go to the extremes that Tuttle did, but it has that similar energy of just this one thing kind of ricocheting into something much bigger and much more weird than you would imagine based on the first scene. This show is really good at escalation and how the characters play off of an absurd situation and like make it to be this like larger than life kind of thing.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. And to get into the episode just a little bit, I noted that in the first scene, it's kind of like poking fun again at the military and just the military bureaucracy when Radar is burning papers for warmth. He's like taking copies of old orders and stuff and just like throwing them into the furnace with Henry. And then it's also Henry starts writing to the supply unit in charge and asking them for, you know, winter supplies because they're kind of suggesting that they just got the summer underwear and mosquito netting and stuff. It was really funny. I thought that was there's a really like subtle dig at it, and I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Bureaucracy, man, it's always a good punching bag, no matter what system it is.
So then after that, we cut to Hawkeye and Trapper coming out of the mess tent, and I don't know if you noticed this, but Hawkeye and Trapper are walking out, and Trapper's bundled up and he's like really cold, and Hawkeye is fine. He's like not in a blanket or anything like that, just a hat and his normal clothes. And he was singing and his mouth was not moving. It was like so obviously a voiceover. Oh my god,
I thought that was a nice ADR moment.
It was so funny because it was like Alan Alda's face was on camera, like full on, and his mouth was not moving as he was singing. It was so funny.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I was not paying close enough attention. Oh, that's really funny. I love stuff like that. Because ADR,
I thought you would notice.
Dialogue replacement where they like dub in more dialogue is such a common practice. But I love when it's always just a little bit messed up. I love when you can tell. That's super fun. I might rewatch this entire episode just to see.
It was really funny. I was laughing like harder than I should have. I don't know. I love when shows mess up stuff like that. I just think it's hysterical.
I feel that. That's a big joy for me as well.
So we come to find out that Hawkeye is dancing around and singing and stuff and not feeling the cold because he has a pair of Long John underwear that his dad sent him. And Trapper is sick and just like coughing and sneezing and stuff, while Hawkeye is like, I am nice and warm. And I thought that was really funny.
What I loved about this underwear for this entire episode is that, first of all, it's just like a pair of footy pajamas, basically, if you don't really kind of know what long johns are, because they're not super in fashion right now, you know?
Especially like the One Piece ones.
Yeah. It's just like a pair of footy pajamas you put underneath your like regular clothes, more or less. It doesn't look like a super thick garment, right? It just looks like a kind of pajama-esque thing. And I love that anytime anyone puts these on throughout the episode, the second they do, they are completely fine. Like, the cold is no more just because there's one thing they have. Like, they don't need anything else. They have this, and they're like, okay, we're good. And I love that it's kind of magic like that.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's definitely, I feel like it's a little bit overplayed for anyone who's worn long johns. Like, they keep you warm, but they don't like block out the cold from your body. You don't have like a fortress around you when you wear long johns, but this is how they're acting.
I really liked how that was played.
Yeah, it was funny. So Trapper is like trying to basically guilt Hawkeye.
He's dying.
You're right, he is kind of dying. So it's established that Trapper has a cold, and he starts sneezing and is trying to like basically guilt Hawkeye into giving him the long johns. And of course, Hawkeye does, because he's too nice of a guy not to.
Hawkeye is kind of like a jerk sometimes, but he's always got because how this starts is that he's like singing and joking and like, haha, look at me, I've got the good underwear. And then the second that Trapper like doesn't let up with his like routine of being like, oh, woe is me, he's like, oh, fine, and he just throws it to him, and Trapper's just like, thank you, just immediately is all good.
It was funny because Trapper was supposed to be sneezing, and these were like the worst fake sneezes I have ever heard.
Oh yeah,
it was so awful. Bad.
But it was really so funny. Do you want to run your hot inflation calculator for a second? Because first, Trapper wants to buy the underwear off of him, and he first offers $20, and then like 30 and 40 and 50, and it grows and grows and grows. And I just want to know, how much was $20 in the year of our Lord 1950? Because I imagine that $20 went a bit further than it does now.
Oh my god, $20 back in 1950 has the same buying power as $233.
Oh my
today.
God. That's
I know,
like
how crazy
a lot
is
of money.
And then eventually he offers him $60. And his children, by the way, for the long johns.
And his children. I didn't know that Trapper had children, by the way. I knew he was married. I didn't know he had a whole family of... Man.
2 girls.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, Trapper's not the best dad and husband. I'm just gonna say it.
That's not really a hot take. I think I've said that like 7 times on this show. But so $60 back in 1950 has the same buying power as $699 today in 2022.
Yo, that's some valuable underwear right there.
I know, it's crazy. So the next scene is Hawkeye, Trapper, Radar, and just like a throwaway character playing
just
poker.
Some guy.
So Radar bets like $20 or something like that, which we've already established a lot of money. And Trapper says, oh, I want to play, but I don't have $20. And so he bets the long johns instead.
Hawkeye freaks out.
Hawkeye
as you naturally would.
He's like, you can't bet my long johns. You can't bet my long johns. And Trapper is like, no, like, of course I'm going to win against Radar. It's Radar. He's a kid. He doesn't even know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to play. And so, okay, I have to admit, I don't know how poker works, really.
Oh, I have no clue. I have no earthly idea how poker works. I would be the easiest to scam.
Yeah, like, we'd be Radar in this situation, right? So it turns out that Trapper thinks that he wins, and Radar has 2 pairs.
Like two pairs of 10s, and apparently that equals a win, which is just so ridiculous, because the second he realizes he won, he like already goes for like the buttons on Trapper's underwear while he's wearing them, like, all right, strip, buddy. That's basically what he says.
Yeah, as Hawkeye and Trapper are like yelling at each other because Trapper just lost the underwear, Radar is pulling the underwear like, off of Trapper.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's a bit of a tangent, but have you ever like lent something out to a friend and then they just never gave it back, or like gave it to somebody else? Because I can't name a specific item, but that's definitely happened to me a few times in my life, especially during like elementary and middle school. I would like lend out video games or whatever, and they would never make their way back to me.
I feel like I have, which is why I don't lend things to people that much anymore. But I can't think of a time. But I feel like it's happened to everybody, which is why this episode, seeing this, was so traumatic.
So relatable. After that, Mr. Radar kind of becomes king of the camp for a hot second there.
Yeah.
They're in the mess tent, and Radar is like sitting next to this beautiful young lady, and they're like, "How did that happen?" And Radar is like, "I've got the goods. I've got the stuff, man." And he's showing this lady his underwear, like, "You want it?" And she's like,
that sounds so gross. Like, just the way you said that, showing this lady his underwear. Ew.
I'm sorry.
I guess we should clarify. Okay, so I also had an issue with how no one was actually wearing the underwear for half the time, like the Longjohns for half the time. So Radar had them in like a package basically, and was letting the nurse who he was sitting next to like warm her hands in them essentially. And I was like, why is he not wearing them currently? Like, what is
he
this?
Not cold?
Yeah. Did he suddenly just not get cold anymore? I don't know.
And I love that Radar, this little innocent man, immediately is like, "I'm gonna hawk these like there's no tomorrow. I'm gonna use this as leverage. I'm gonna get something out of it." He doesn't even care about being warm.
So in this scene, this nurse is like kind of interested in Radar. We don't know if it's like just for the underwear or if it's
just for the underwear.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to think that someone was interested in Radar, but whatever. So then the cook says to Radar, like, you know, "I can give you this whole leg of lamb for the Longjohns in exchange for the Longjohns." And Radar is kind of like looking at the nurse and looking at the lamb. And so he's like, with the mint jelly included, which is really gross. I don't know why you eat lamb with mint jelly.
Okay.
But the cook says yes. And so Radar trades the Longjohns for an entire leg of lamb. And I thought that was so cute because to me it just showed how really like innocent and young Radar is. Like, I have this thing, but I am hungry, so I'm gonna eat this good food instead.
Because the woman was 100% like going to spend the night with a Radar, like that kind of thing. So he's a man who knows his priorities. He's like, "I want food, yes, food every time." I gotta respect that. What a true champion, being like, I got food. I don't care about you.
So in this next scene, we have the cook in possession of the Longjohns.
It's a big chain. Every time anyone gets the underwear, they're immediately like, "All right, I love this," but also they lose it pretty much immediately. It's a whole roulette.
So the cook has the underwear, again, not wearing them. I guess because he's in the kitchen, it's warm. It cuts to Frank and the cook in the kitchen, and Frank establishes that he came into the kitchen, a place where he does not belong, to get warm. And then he's giving the cook a bunch of grief about the kitchen not being like as clean as it should be in like standards. And I was so annoyed. That was such a Frank Burns thing.
This is maybe Frank's most unlikable episode so far. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I low-key hated Frank this one. Just how kind of incessant he was. He had no like real redeeming qualities in this one. I didn't like him.
That's a bold statement, because Frank wasn't even in the episode that much.
But can you think of of another episode where he's less annoying than this?
Yeah, that's true. I think you have a point. I do think you have a point. I concede. But I also noted when I was watching the episode, did you notice that Frank was like, right before the cook gave him the Longjohns, because the cook says to Frank, "Oh, I have these long johns. Please don't bust me for the kitchen not being up to cleanliness standards." Like, what a jerk. But Frank was like rubbing his ass by the fire to get warm. Did you notice that? It was very weird.
Man, you keep noticing all these fun visual
I
details.
don't know.
Well, I guess I just wasn't paying attention to this one. Man, so many good gags. I'm just picturing that in my head and laughing at the thought.
It was very strange. Like, I'm sure it was supposed to be his back, but it really didn't look like it.
Sometimes you gotta rub your butt on the stove, man. Sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures.
Oh my goodness. So after...
And this is what I'm talking about with Frank being the most annoying, because right after he obtains this magical underwear, he goes to Margaret and they have their annual date. And
that's not what that is.
And they have the usual date, and like he's just such a jerk to her the entire time. It was so like unneeded. It wasn't fun. It was so mean, honestly. He was so mean to her the entire time.
Yeah, so in this scene, we have Frank and Margaret just like, just hanging out and stuff. And he says that this cheese that they're eating together, his wife sent it to him. And she basically says to Frank, like, how much do I mean to you? Like, what is this relationship to you? And I really enjoyed this scene for a couple of reasons. Because Margaret always gets mad that, like, whenever Frank mentions his wife, right? And we've seen it before, like, where she, like, kind of goes off and cries. But I think it's really funny every time she does, as if, I don't know, that he is going to leave his wife for her, someone that he kind of more or less just met 6 months to a year ago. I know what you mean when you say that he was being mean to her, because, like, he's a jerk, right? But I thought that you could really see how Alan Alda was the writer of this episode, especially if you've seen more of the show later on when he takes more of the creative reins of the show where he's writing and directing. Because when Frank mentions his wife in this scene, Margaret doesn't do her typical, like, gets weepy and stuff like that. She kind of stands up for herself in this one, where she says, like, Frank, what do I actually mean to you? Like, where is this relationship going, basically?
And Frank just gives her, like, these empty platitudes of, like, oh, you mean the moon to me, you mean the world, like, all these sweet nothings that, like, literally mean nothing. And she's just clocks right through that. And I think if this wasn't such an episodic things can't change sitcom and he didn't have this magical underwear, like, this would have been the end of their relationship. Like, if this progressed to the logical point that it was, this would have been the end, because he just didn't have an answer.
She even says, Frank, I think we should reevaluate our friendship. And he, freaks out. And I'm like, yeah, because she's realizing that this married guy is never going to be or anything more to her than, or she's never going to be anything more to him than just like someone to get through the army and the war with. And I don't know, Alan Alda kind of took the reins later on, like I said, and made Margaret's character more fleshed out and like more of a human being. And you can see it right away in this first episode that he wrote, and I really, really appreciated that, and I wish that they had just broken up right then and there.
Feminist king Alan Alda.
I wrote that in my notes. Like, all caps. I was like, feminist king Alan Alda. But again, like, what I really also enjoyed about this was that while she was standing up for herself, she was still kind of in character, and it was still, like, funny and kind of lighthearted. Yeah. And I thought that, I don't know, I thought that Alan Alda just did such a good job with this specifically, and you can see it. A talented
man.
We love him.
Man. We stan a king, if I may use that parlance.
So, yeah, basically Margaret threatens to break up with Frank, and then he's like, oh, I'll give you my long johns if you don't break up with me, which, like, okay. And this was also Frank being such a jerk, too, because he was like, when you're in a relationship, like, partners are supposed to, like, share with each other. Like, if I had long johns with my significant other, I would, like, do you want these?
In this very specific scenario.
Oh my god, it made me so mad.
And she legit yells at him for, like, I'm freezing to death here, and you're sitting there fine.
Yeah, you have long johns?
Again, magic. Like, the second you put these on, you're like, all right, I'm good. So he's, like, perfectly fine, and she's, like, dying.
I have to note also, so after Frank leaves Margaret's tent, because she does kick him out, she's like, get out of my tent, but leave the long johns, which,
yeah,
yes,
it's really good. Feminist king.
Then, when Frank leaves Margaret's tent, obviously very cold because he didn't have the long johns on, Klinger kind of, like, stages this stick up.
Oh, he legit was gonna shoot him in the face. Like, he has a shotgun and was just, like, ready to blow Frank's head off. If this was anything other than an episode of the week sitcom, you would feel real danger, because I was like, yeah, he probably would have got shot. Because Klinger, I feel like he would pull the trigger if he was so pressed to do so.
So we see Klinger just kind of come out of nowhere and hold up Frank and tell him to, like, strip because he wants the long johns. And Klinger is in this very spring dress. It's like short sleeves, short, and he's in high heels. He's not dressed for the season at all.
And he acknowledges that.
Yeah, and you can tell that this is, like, super early on with Klinger's character too, because as he goes on, he gets, like, seasonally appropriate women's clothes, and
fantastic.
I love that. I love it so much.
I love that. And I love that even right away, like, they establish that Klinger knows what he's talking about when it comes to dresses. It's not just, like, it's not just things that he's pulling together. Like, he knows all these, like, brand names and, like, the different components in, like, a way that, like, I don't know. He, like, has an actual knowledge of dresses, and I like that bit.
Klinger is a fashionista. Gender does not equal fashionista.
Move over, Harry Styles, we got.
Oh my goodness. Ethan, no. So then Frank basically tells Klinger, I don't have them anymore. Major Houlihan has them. And Klinger steals them out of Margaret's tent because, again, they are not on her body. Yes, what the heck? Everyone covets these long johns, but no one actually puts them on.
That's so funny.
What the heck?
That is such a, like, stupid comedy of errors thing, too.
Yeah.
Where it's like, finally, the gold is mine. And then they do nothing with it. This episode's perfect. I'm just gonna say it. This is a perfect episode of comedy television. Even, like, the stupid stuff, you're like, this is stupid, but it's funny and, like, works for the plot.
This structure, I feel like, really ages well.
Yeah, like, this could be a Shakespeare play.
I have trivia on that later on.
Nice,
We'll get to it.
So Klinger obtains these, but he immediately feels, like, awful. Which, maybe I should retract my previous statement that Klinger would shoot him in the face. Because he steals his underwear, and he's immediately like, oh, never mind. And he goes to Father Mulcahy, and he's like, hey, I did a bad thing, but the person I stole them from also kind of sucks. So, like, what do I do? And Father Mulcahy's like, it's fine. Well, he's not like it's fine, but he ends up taking the underwear.
I really liked this scene because, I don't know if you noticed it, but Klinger was behind this, like, rope mesh thing, and he calls Father Mulcahy over, and it's supposed to, like, kind of be this, like, makeshift confessional because Klinger is confessing basically that he stole these long johns. What should I do? And he gives them to Father Mulcahy. He's like, here, take them. I feel so guilty. And I felt so bad for Klinger also in this scene because he felt bad for taking them. He is scared of the artillery that's, getting closer and closer to camp every night. And I just, like, really felt for Klinger in this moment. And I thought that Father Mulcahy was just, like, the perfect character to be like, it's going to be okay. It's fine. Like, at least you're doing the right thing and giving them back.
And it ties into, I believe it was Klinger's real introduction when in Dear Dad, he's like, he's going to grenade Frank. Father Mulcahy talks him down. So they do have a pre-established kind of relationship with each other. And it's very good. It's a smart dynamic between the two.
Yeah, I really like it. I love these two characters so much, and I'm so excited for them to get more screen time later on.
Yes. I think this is the episode that really makes Klinger, like, he's gonna come back and he's gonna be a regular guy. Because I think this is the first time we see him outside of, like, a Dear Dad or a 1-minute introduction cameo in that poker episode way back when. So Klinger, he's a man of the people. He's here to stay.
Yeah. Every time Klinger gets reintroduced into the early episodes, he has like longer and longer scenes, and I'm excited for more of his character to come. So then Father Mulcahy eventually gives the Longjohns to Henry, and I thought it was really funny that Father Mulcahy took it upon himself to wear the Longjohns to like keep them safe the night prior when Klinger gave them to him before releasing them to Henry and saying, "Oh yeah, go find the rightful owner." And Henry was like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'm gonna definitely do that."
Nope, this is the most corrupt Henry ever is. He's immediately like, I have the one ring. I'm Gollum.
Yeah, Henry reassures Father Mulcahy that he'll definitely look high and low for the owner of these Longjohns. He asks Radar after Father Mulcahy leaves, Radar, did you lose anything? And Radar says, I don't know, like, did you find anything? And it's just like, oh, I guess you didn't. Okay, that's it. So he has this plausible deniability that he, like, actually looked for the owner of the Longjohns. Oh, couldn't find them. Okay, I'm keeping them. I thought that it was a very quick little exchange, but it was so funny and so well done.
It was such a power grab. He's like, these are mine. I'm not giving them to somebody who, like, actually needs them or actually belongs to.
And so right after that, we get Hawkeye and Trapper bursting in, and Henry is just, like, finishing buttoning up the Longjohns.
Oh, and he, like, fully strips down, and, like, Radar is, like, watching him.
Oh, yeah.
And is like, oh, Henry's in, but, like, half of him's hanging out.
Oh, gross. I kind of, like, wouldn't want those after that. If his naked body's against them, but,
If it's cold, you need them.
So then Hawkeye and Trapper are basically like, Henry, give those back to us. Like, that's
mine.
Not yours.
They're ours.
And Henry all of a sudden, like, is doubled over in pain. And you're like, what the hell is going on? And you come to find out that Henry is, like, his appendix is on the verge of bursting.
I love a random appendicitis, baby.
My mind was blown because I'm like, Henry is a doctor, a literal surgeon, and he was like, nah, it's just indigestion and I'm throwing up constantly, but it's definitely not my appendix. There's nothing wrong here. I was like, really, dude? You're a doctor.
Listen, man, as someone who has had their appendix taken out, it can hit fast and hard. You don't know what it is. He was just like, oh, whatever. But no, it really does happen that way.
I don't accept that because Henry's a doctor. He should have taken more care.
He should probably know the symptoms.
Yeah, exactly.
But it could just sneak up on you, my dude. It's a wild thing.
I guess so, but I don't give Henry that much credit because he should know.
When I had appendicitis, fun fact, I just thought it was because I ate too much Smart Food popcorn. I just thought, I ate too much of that, and now my tummy hurts, and that was apparently appendicitis.
Oh
so I got my appendix
Ethan.
taken out the next day. So Henry has very sudden appendicitis, and Hawkeye and Trapper kind of immediately drop the gambit for the underwear because they go into surgeon mode, which I really like. I like whenever there's something serious, they do operate very professionally. I think it's very good and very smart, and they're immediately like, we gotta get this out of you. So they take him to the OR, and he's like freaking out. And it turns out the reason he's freaking out isn't that they're going to cut him open. It's that they're going to cut the underwear open in the process. And he's like, no! It's a great karmic justice because Henry is maybe the most corrupt in this episode when it comes to the underwear. So he gets the biggest punishment being his appendix taken out.
I also liked, I don't know if you caught this, but in earlier episodes, Henry said that he can't stand the sight of his own blood.
Yes.
And he says to Hawkeye and Trapper, he's like,
don't give me a needle, give me the gas.
Yeah, because I don't want to see any blood. And I thought that was a really funny callback. I don't know if it was intentional, but I noticed it.
I bet Alan Alda is smart like that. I feel like he pays attention to that kind of thing. But
yes.
I relate to that. I prefer gas over injection whenever I had surgery or whatnot. Hate needles. Needles are bad. So I related to Mr. Henry on this one. Give me the gas every time.
So then there's an announcement over the loudspeaker that Henry's okay, and they also didn't have to cut into the Longjohns, and everyone cheers, and everyone's like, yay!
It was great, because I think it was Radar on the speakers. I'm not sure who the speaker guy is, if that's a separate character.
You know, I've never looked into that. I really need to. I'm going to.
Okay. But the announcement says that Henry is father to a bouncing baby appendix, which was insane. And then he says, also the Longjohns were saved, and they all congratulate each other at what heroic work Hawkeye and Trapper did. And they feel like heroes, and they retire to the tent, and Mr. Henry, grateful, gives our heroes back what they deserve.
Yeah, so it does come full circle where Henry... I also really liked how Hawkeye had every opportunity to kind of like steal these Longjohns back from Henry, and he just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was kind of cute. But it does come full circle where Henry gives the Longjohns back to Hawkeye as like a thank you for saving his life. And then right at the end, Trapper and Radar start like sneezing and coughing again to try to get Hawkeye to give the Longjohns to them to like warm up and stuff, and Hawkeye is just having absolutely none of it. He's just like, nope, get out of here. You guys are done. And
the way
it's
he
so
screams
funny.
no is like a horror movie. He's like, oh god, they've returned to kill me. Like, he is so invested in screaming no, 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 no over and over again. It's delightful, and
it's great
really
acting
funny.
from Alan Alda too, because he is like, absolutely not. You really believe that Hawkeye is just like, no way in hell I am
mine.
giving you my Longjohns. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I loved it. I loved it so much. And that's where the episode ends. So before I go into trivia, did you have any favorite lines from this episode? I didn't think it was great for one-liners, but I have some that I really enjoyed.
I don't know how problematic this line is.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
Loved it. It was such an insane insult. Because when Hawkeye sees that Frank has his Longjohns, he calls Frank a hermaphroditic weasel, and it was the most insane insult I've ever heard. Like, if somebody said that to me, I would not know how to respond. Like, what a thing to say to anyone.
And he really said it, like, without missing a beat.
Yeah.
It was very, like, right there.
Yeah, like, he's been wanting to call Frank a hermaphroditic weasel for years and years and years, and finally, he's been given the opportunity.
Yeah, I don't think the term hermaphrodite is, like, a nice thing to call people anymore, but this insult was just like, it kind of shocked me. I was not gonna lie, I just didn't expect that to come out of his mouth.
That was a line.
My favorite is, I wrote so many down, I'm not gonna lie to you. I had a couple. When Hawkeye and Trapper are bringing Henry into surgery, they pass Radar when they're coming out of Henry's office. And Hawkeye says, we're cutting him open. And Radar goes, just because he stole your underwear? Like, really shocked that this is going to be Henry's punishment. I thought that was really cute.
Radar sells that really well. It's his delivery that makes it perfect. Man, this episode is really good. This is a super fun one. I love this one.
I liked it too. I liked it a lot. So I do have some trivia for it. So this was Alan Alda's first time writing an episode of MASH, and like we said, he's going to be writing a lot more later on. And so when I was researching it, Alan Alda said that he borrowed the structure of the episode, like kind of this thing being passed off to multiple characters from this play called I don't know how to pronounce it without like being super French, but La Ronde. And it's actually a German play with 10 scenes where each of the characters appears twice in like 2 consecutive scenes, much like this episode. So like how it went from Hawkeye to Trapper, and then Trapper to Radar, and Radar to, you know, the cook. That's how this play is. And it follows the same structure also, where it's like the last person and the first person are in the same last scene together. So like Henry gives it back to Hawkeye. That's how this play was. And I thought that was just really cool.
That's
I really liked that.
I love that this episode is a deep cut reference to some German play that no one has. I mean, I'm sure that people have seen this play because like any play is like regarded, you know? I love how Alan Alda kind of took creative control of the show as it went on. He wrote a lot of episodes. He directed a lot of episodes. And it's just super cool. I love to see that kind of involvement from any cast member of any show when they're like, all right, I am legitimately invested in this production. I'm not just here to say my lines. Like, I want to also make a good product. It's really cool, especially that this is only season 1 and he's already like getting into the writer's room and kind of bringing his own sensibilities to it.
Yeah, I definitely think that you'd be hard pressed probably to find an actor who sticks with the show for so long as Alan Alda had. He stayed with it through the entire run, who didn't take on a more creative role. I don't know. I think that that's really great. I really like Alan Alda as an actor, and also behind the scenes too. I thought he did a really, really great job with this episode, especially being his first.
Yes, this is a fantastic episode to start with.
It is. And I also have a little bit of trivia about the actor who played the cook, which I don't think he was named, unless he was named in the credits. I don't really know, but the actor who played the cook, his name was Joseph V. Perry, and he has 184 acting credits on IMDb. Whoa. He was in hundreds of, like, it was crazy. He was in so many TV shows, so many movies. Amazing. So he had some guest starring roles on Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, The Barney Miller Show, and then some more mainstream things where I guess he was a little bit more well-known on Cheers and Murder, She Wrote, Seinfeld, and MacGyver. And then
this guy got around.
Yeah. And so then he played what he's most known for, this recurring character on Everybody Loves Raymond called Nemo. And he played in that role until he passed away in 2000. So he was in a lot of stuff. Really crazy.
I've never seen Everybody Loves Raymond, but I am legit a big fan of Ray Romano. I think he's a fantastic actor. If you haven't seen The Big Sick, watch that film. He's really good in it. So I do want to see Everybody Loves Raymond, to see him in like his like standard sitcom mode, because I want to see him evolve as a performer. So that's super cool. I love anybody who's like, all right, I'm going to work for 50 years and I'm going to have 1 billion credits and everything. And I still have the episode open, and it is to the guest star credits, and he is just credited as the cook. So he doesn't have a name.
Okay.
But that is super cool that he had such a long and interesting career as all these different characters and all these different shows.
Yeah, for sure. So, just to wrap up, we'd like to give thanks to Jacob Furibalco for being our technical consultant, Melissa, my sister, for cover art, and of course, our listeners, thank you so much. Music, social media, and contacts for the show are linked in the description as always. And until next time, choose a leg of lamb over a lady, of course. Goodbye, farewell, and amen.
Bye, everyone.